Cheating wife who disappeared wants to come back after affair partner's death. My wife of 17 years has basically disappeared on us for the last 3 days. I feel completely lost in my current situation and I'm looking for any kind of insight. Claire, 39F, and I, David, 40M, have been married for 16 years. We have 3 daughters, 15, 13, and 11. We were high school sweethearts and have been together for about 22 years now. Here's what I know. 3 days ago, Claire came home from work. She seemed frantic, emotional, almost panicked. Without much explanation, she quickly packed an overnight bag and left. I only found out because our oldest daughter was home and witnessed the whole situation. Despite my attempts to talk to her, Claire was crying, distraught, and remained silent. She gave no answers. Since then, she hasn't responded to any of our texts or calls. I reached out to her parents, and they assured me she was safe with them, asking us to be patient and understanding. Beyond that, I contacted her sister, her brother, and a close friend from work. Her brother claimed he knew nothing. Her friend mentioned that Claire had been at work in the morning but disappeared by lunchtime 3 days ago. That was all she knew. So here we are, 3 days with no contact from my wife. Not even with the kids. Nobody is telling us anything. I'm here with my 3 girls, trying to manage without her. The kids keep asking me what's going on, what happened to mom, and all I can say is that she's with grandma and grandpa, and we're supposed to wait. Sitting here in limbo feels awful. I've had an overwhelming urge to just pack up the kids and drive to her parents' house. It's only about 3 hours away. But I don't want to make things worse. The kids think we had a huge fight and are divorcing, but that couldn't be further from the truth. We never fight. The kids know this. I don't know what's going on. If someone close to her had passed away, wouldn't her family have told me? If it was some resurfacing trauma, wouldn't she lean on me for support? Instead, we've been left with silence. Nothing makes sense. I'm worried, scared, angry. Every emotion you can imagine in a situation like this. Can anyone come up with a reasonable explanation? Why would you suddenly cut off your entire family like this? Update 1. Everyone was correct. It was an affair. Since my father-in-law never called me back, I eventually contacted the police for a wellness check, as many suggested. That decision triggered a storm of issues, but it also revealed the truth. Claire has been having an affair for at least 2 years, probably longer. The man she was involved with suffered a heart attack last Tuesday and passed away later that night. From what I've gathered, Claire's mother, and probably her sister as well, knew about it and covered for her. Still, no contact from Claire. Not with me, not with the girls. I'm trying to keep this from them for now. Honestly, I have no idea what to do. That's all I know, and it feels like enough to break me. Thank you for all the advice and support. Please keep us in your thoughts. Update 2. Several people recommended joining support communities, and I've been reading posts when I have time, mostly at night when the chaos of the day ends. That's when the brain takes over, and I swing between deep depression and uncontrollable anger, sometimes both at once. Sleeping has become nearly impossible. I stumble through my days in a zombie-like state. My personal D-Day was last Friday, when I realized that what I thought was a 2-year affair may have been much longer. The man Claire was involved with was someone she had known for quite some time. The truth only came to light because he passed away from a heart attack. I'm still piecing together information with the help of my oldest daughter. There are many details I'm not ready to share. Honestly, I didn't plan to continue posting about my situation, but so many people have offered advice that it's become somewhat therapeutic. It's painful to realize how many others are going through the same kind of heartbreak. I've met with 2 different lawyers this week to discuss options. I've also contacted multiple therapy providers, though the waiting lists are long where I live. I'm trying to follow suggestions. Avoid alcohol, I don't drink anyway. Focus on self-care, and work out. Normally I'm in good shape for my age, but right now I can barely find the energy. I know some of you will want details. The who, what, when, and why. But I'm not ready for that. Each day feels like a new explosion. At this point, I'm only seeking advice on one simple thing: how to get some sleep and peace of mind. Claire was everything to me, my best friend since high school, the mother of my 3 daughters. We had inside jokes, secret handshakes, and countless memories. And now it feels like none of it mattered to her. I think about all of our years together, every milestone, every laugh. Now it's just gone. The depression is crippling. Then the rage sets in, and I scream into a pillow or punch the mattress until my arms cramp. It's a horrible cycle. I fall asleep only from pure exhaustion, then wake suddenly, and the thoughts begin again. Any energy I do have goes to my daughters. They've been trying to take care of me, like they're the parents and I'm the child. It's unfair, but it's the reality. So I'll ask, how did you cope with the silence and emptiness after discovering betrayal? How did you manage the nights when your mind won't stop? My daughter's well-being is my top priority, but I'm struggling. Any guidance would mean a lot. Update 3. Apologies for still being new to this community. I'm not sure how much of my situation I'm supposed to repeat. It's been just over a week since D-Day, and since then I've learned that Claire's affair lasted more than 4 years. Still no exact timeline, but it likely started as emotional and then turned physical. I can't help but wonder how the pandemic and lockdowns played into it. Questions I may never get answers to. Yesterday, my in-laws made an unplanned visit to see the girls. Claire has been staying at their house since this nightmare began, which feels incredibly unfair. They spent about 15 minutes greeting the kids before asking to speak with me in private. The conversation was long, as you'd expect. To summarize, Claire wants to come home, but she's afraid of the backlash and too scared to face what she's done. Her parents pressed hard to know whether I plan to divorce. They also tried to persuade me to forgive her and rebuild the marriage. They seemed ashamed and embarrassed, but it was clear they wanted Claire out of their home. The exchange was civil and respectful. I must confess, I misled them. I told them I was uncertain about my future plans, when in reality, my intention is to proceed with a divorce. However, I fear that revealing my decision might hinder my chances of getting the full truth from my wife. While I acknowledge I may never fully uncover it, I am determined to have her sit before me and provide an explanation if possible. 17 years of marriage. Together since high school. 3 kids, countless memories, everything we've shared. I want her to look me in the eyes and tell me everything. I also want my kids to know that I gave her a chance to explain herself, that I gave her the opportunity to apologize and handle things together as mature adults. I keep trying to choose the path that will set the best example for my kids. I don't know, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Legally, I cannot keep my wife out of our home. My lawyer made that very clear. So if my wife is going to come home, I can't stop her, even though I absolutely do not want this right now. My girls and I have actually started to settle into a nice routine, so I made a demand that I felt would be unachievable for a while. I said my wife could come home if, when she sat down with me in person, she looked me in the eyes and revealed everything about her affair from start to finish, answering any and all of my questions without hesitation or further deceit. And then sat down with the girls, apologized in person, and answered their questions too. Considering they are already aware, I believe it's only fair. Legally, she has the right to return home at any time and isn't obligated to comply with any demands. However, if she's hesitant to face us, perhaps I can use that to my advantage. I want to clarify that I'm not trying to be manipulative. I simply want to postpone cohabitation if possible, because I'm not ready for it at this point. There is a mandatory 90-day waiting period in our state before a divorce can happen anyway. Her coming home is inevitable. We'll both have to go back to work eventually, and life will go on regardless of this mess. I just want to prolong it so I can plan and get into a better state of mental and emotional health. My wife has been texting the girls. She claims she doesn't want a divorce and keeps apologizing to them repeatedly. They've shown me the texts. She asks about me daily, and the reality of what she's done to all of us is hitting her hard, especially in the last couple of days. How do I manage this? Was my demand foolish? It sounds like my wife is going to be coming home sooner rather than later anyway. I feel confident in my path forward right now. I'm not rattled by this, as I knew it would happen eventually. I just want to make the best decision for my daughters and then myself as we move forward. Thank you to each and every one of you who has been offering encouragement, advice, and support. 4th update. This will be rather anticlimactic, but apologies for the length. I just need to get this out. I had a terrible weekend. However, my wife returned home yesterday after a considerable build-up throughout the week. In the past, I would greet her with a hug and a kiss the moment she entered the doorway. But this time, an incredibly uncomfortable awkwardness hung between us. Although she attempted to initiate a hug before saying anything, I turned away as if nothing had happened. The situation felt surreal. After she settled in, I naturally asked her to tell me everything. She again reiterated that she's not ready. We had spoken on the phone earlier in the week. Same result. I insisted that the only condition of her moving back home was that she cared enough to explain why she's been absent for going on 3 weeks. But she just repeated that she wasn't ready for that. It took a lot not to scream at her, but I took a couple of deep breaths and tried to compose myself. I failed. After the first of many very long pauses, I just blurted out that she'd been having an affair for over 4 years with this coworker of hers, had planned on leaving me for this other man, had disappeared from her whole family, and now walked through the door without fulfilling the one single condition I had asked for, and that I wanted a divorce. I guess this is when things got weird. Her body language and facial expression made it obvious she had no idea how much I knew about her affair. She glanced at me wide-eyed, then just stood there in the kitchen staring at the floor. Said nothing, just stoic. I was expecting anything, everything, but this. Maybe an emotional outburst, maybe a tearful confession. I anticipated various reactions when my wife returned, perhaps screaming, yelling, or placing blame on me for the affair. I was ready for a serious tone, thinking we could sit down and talk things through. However, what unfolded was entirely different. We stood in the kitchen in absolute silence for what felt like 5 minutes. It was the strangest moment I've ever experienced. Neither of us knew what to say, and the awkwardness was palpable. I had read all of your comments and advice on my situation. I even took notes. I sat in front of a mirror and had prepared myself for all possible scenarios that this confrontation might present, except this one. So I eventually decided right then and there to map out everything I knew about her affair. Maybe dumb of me. I proceeded to tell her everything that I knew, admittedly adding in my own assumptions about several things, how she met the affair partner, her sister's involvement, what went on during COVID, etc. She just stared at the floor the entire time. I got angrier as I went along because she did nothing, said nothing, but I did everything I could not to raise my voice or use obscene language. I finally composed myself. Then there was another lengthy, awkward silence. Then anger switched to sadness at the realization of everything. I softly asked her what I did to push her away. Did she ever love me? Was her affair partner worth it? She said nothing. Didn't budge. Didn't move. Just nothing from her at all. No tears, no apology, no yelling, no explanation. She just stood there, with her head down, offering nothing. The pain I felt at that moment was intense, maybe even worse than D-Day. I found myself staring at her, unsure if I could move. Unfortunately, the situation took a turn for the worse, as our daughters had been eavesdropping on the entire encounter. I felt an overwhelming sense of stupidity, realizing that despite my efforts to prioritize our girls and their needs over the past couple of weeks, the unintended consequences had now unfolded. I got emotional and didn't give a single thought to their whereabouts once I confronted my wife. Our oldest daughter stormed downstairs and lashed out, a lot of pent-up anger on her part. My wife quickly ran upstairs and locked the bedroom door. That's where we're at now. I heard my wife crying most of the night until I fell asleep. Only our youngest has tried talking to her. The rest of us have avoided her. If I can get the courage up, I'm going to suggest she stay with her sister until we're able to finalize the divorce. But this is still her home too. It's just going to be miserable if we all have to cohabitate with her. I was wrong about my wife, and all of you were correct. I was wrong about all of our years together, wrong about all of the memories, the life-changing moments. I was convinced she would drop to her knees and beg forgiveness. I was so convinced she would repent of everything from the last 4 years and unload the truth to absolve her guilt. This woman literally once drove back to a farmer's market when she realized she'd been given too much change. But we were apparently not worth it to her. I feel like I'm not worth it to her. Perhaps I never was. Now what do I do? Today was incredibly uncomfortable at home. Despite our efforts to carry on as we had for the past 2 weeks, it's evident that maintaining the status quo is no longer possible. I just wish I could fast forward through all of this, bypass the divorce, the awkward conversations, the inevitable arguments and fights, and the drama. I'm particularly thinking about those who have had to cohabitate with their unfaithful spouse, and I'm eager to move past these challenging times. How did you manage that? Especially with kids. I know this is just the beginning. I keep reading all of the posts that promise it gets better, but I'm so far away from that. There's not a single moment when I don't want to scream. Right now, I'm trying very, very hard to maintain a stable mind for the girls, of course, but I don't know if I can keep it up for 3 months. School will start well before all of this is over too. I guess this is my life now. Thank you all for taking such a vested interest in me. I don't know if the worst is ahead or behind us, but I appreciate anything you can offer to get me through the next phase. 5th update. I'm in a bad way and have been ever since my wife came back home. Since I learned of her affair, I've been trying to fake it as best as possible for my daughters. I try to say the right things, think the right things, but tonight I have to admit the truth. As many of you often write, it comes in waves. Tonight I was hit with a big one and lost my composure. Divorce papers have been filed, but my wife has not yet hired a lawyer. I've been trying to approach this situation with patience and delicacy, hoping for the possibility of an uncontested divorce that we could mostly handle ourselves. However, after tonight, I'm uncertain. Despite our cohabitation during the week, my wife goes to her sister's place on Friday nights and returns Sunday nights. She works very close to our family home, but her sister lives about an hour away if there's no traffic. For the past couple of weeks, this has been the routine. Mostly avoidance. The girls and I try to carry on normally, while my wife stays to herself. There are casual interactions every evening, but nothing deep. My oldest daughter and my wife aren't speaking after a couple of bad arguments, and that's probably for the best right now. Lately, I've been following much of your advice, along with things I've read elsewhere. I work very hard on self-discipline around my wife. It takes all my strength and willpower, but I've been short and indifferent toward her when we briefly talk, though always polite and respectful, until tonight. The last couple of Fridays, she came home from work, grabbed a few things, and left for her sister's before I even got back from work. But not tonight. She was waiting in the kitchen when I got home. I tried to just walk past, but she lightly grabbed my hand and asked me if this is how I was going to treat her, just because she's not ready to talk to me about the affair. This was the very first time she's mentioned it out loud since everything exploded nearly a month ago. I tried to restrain myself and just walk away, but our daughters weren't at home at that moment, and an overwhelming sense of rage built up inside me. Eventually, I couldn't contain it any longer. I unleashed every bit of pain, hurt, anger, and misery I'd been holding back onto her. I honestly can't even say how long I went on. I lost all concept of time. I did raise my voice at times, got animated and loud. I broke down and told her how broken I am, the agony I feel every day, everything I've been holding inside that's been tormenting me. I could make this post 4,000 words long if I tried to recount everything I said. Once I started, I wasn't going to stop. Of course I cried. I got emotional again. And afterward, I was so angry at myself. I had been doing so well. She got to me. I let her get to me. I knew it would happen eventually. For the first time, my wife actually broke down too. She started sobbing uncontrollably. Regrettably, I felt some satisfaction in seeing her hurt the way I was hurting. I wish I didn't care, but part of me was relieved to finally see some emotion from her. Like there was actually still a person in there with an ounce of compassion. Through her tears, she mumbled apologies repeatedly. All she could manage to say was, "I'm so sorry." I left the kitchen before she could gather herself enough to say more. I asked her to please leave me alone. That's how it unfolded. She lingered around the kitchen for a while before leaving once again for her sister's house. The girls came home about a half hour later and knew something had happened. It was hard to hide, but I wasn't ready to talk about it. I don't think they need to know either. The two youngest have been doing much better, and I don't want to hinder their progress. Telling my oldest would only add more fuel to her fire, which I also don't want. I hate this so much. I hate it. I should have held it together. I should have just given my wife the cold shoulder and walked right past her. Now, thinking back, it feels like she was just trying to start a conversation about the affair, but didn't know how. And obviously didn't get very far because I exploded. I find myself genuinely concerned about her well-being. I know some may criticize me for this, but I don't want any harm to come to her. She's been isolated, left alone with her thoughts, and nearly everyone has turned their back on her. While it's true that she deserves the consequences of her actions, she is still a human being and the mother of my kids. What a setback for me. I'm really disappointed in myself. Sorry for another long rant. I called my brother and vented to him too. I'll try to start fresh again Monday. I'm only human. It actually felt good to let it all out on her, but now, of course, the regret is hitting me. Should I text my wife or just leave it be? I'm such a mess. Thanks for listening. Thanks for offering me the support I need to get through all of this, and thank you for all of the advice. In the midst of the chaos, we've all started therapy, so that's something. But this is so incredibly hard. Just so hard. Sixth update. I know many of you have reached out to me, and I do appreciate the concern. Many of you were right. Things aren't going well, and I haven't had the chance to be online at all. Initially, I thought of taking a break from the internet, but this week has thrown me off track terribly. It's been an awful experience. My wife hasn't really given me space all week. She's been excessively nice, constantly apologizing for the affair, sobbing, and at times overwhelming me with attempts at physical closeness. She's been knocking on my door at night wanting to talk. Sometimes I ignored her. Sometimes I talked when I was in the mood. I finally snapped at her Wednesday night, telling her to leave me alone. Then, last night, it happened. Just over a month since my soon-to-be ex-wife came back home after her affair blew up. And now, as things have entered this uncomfortable cohabitating routine, she came into my room after the girls went to bed and asked to talk with me in private. This time was different from the way she'd been approaching me all week. I resisted at first, but eventually we went to the garage and sat in my car, so as not to make the mistake of confronting each other in front of the kids again. This will be lengthy, apologies. She told me everything. According to her, we were out there for almost 3 hours. I don't know how much to share. I was up all night, listening to her sobbing for several hours. Sleep completely eluded me. I found myself in a cycle of tears and anger. At times, I struggled to resist the urge to storm back in and yell, only to be overwhelmed by tears again. The emotional turmoil continued in waves. Please forgive me if it takes a day or so to respond to anyone. I just need to get this off my chest and attempt to get some sleep. It hasn't helped having my wife constantly apologizing and begging me for another chance all evening. Tonight, too, I had to leave for a few hours just to get away from her. It is just so painful to be around her. Anyway, she was introduced to her affair partner by her sister well before COVID, dating back about 5 years. Apparently with zero romantic intentions at first. But he was a higher up at a company she wanted to work for, and where she eventually did get a job. He gave her an in. So her desire to change jobs wasn't based on the affair, but once she did, obviously she had extra incentive. Once she got the job, the affair partner began flirting with her. It started out as texting, then pictures, then more texting, and eventually it became physical just before COVID hit. She confessed to her sister and wanted to come clean to me then, but decided to bury it and say nothing. Of course, my wife said she went no contact with her affair partner soon after. But as lockdowns and restrictions were lifted, he reached back out to her, and she resumed talking to him. Eventually, the physical side of the affair started up again once businesses reopened. She admitted that she ended it a couple of times out of guilt, but ultimately kept going back. In essence, the affair never truly ended. She provided a substantial amount of detail, even handing me a 5-page packet of handwritten notes outlining the timeline. She read through the entire account, addressing my questions along the way. It turned out she had lied about weekend trips with the girls, about traveling for work, about traffic jams, about issues with her parents, about shopping trips, and more. The list was extensive. I had trusted her every word, never questioned anything, but so much of it was just a cover to be with him. Hearing it all only made me feel worse. Everyone was correct. But strangely, her affection toward me never really dipped while all of this was going on. She never became distant the way I've often read about in other cases. Yes, intimacy did change somewhat, but not to the point where I noticed red flags. Anyway, She admitted she fell in love with her affair partner and wanted a life with him. He was older, divorced, single, and promised her expensive things, vacations, and a lifestyle that felt tempting. She began fantasizing about escaping family responsibilities, describing the thrill of being with him as too enticing to resist. She openly confessed that she grew bored with the daily routines of family life. Her account was remarkably candid, emotional, and appeared to be honest. Midway through, I lost my composure and started crying. Hearing it all was painful, as anyone would expect. Of course, once she finished her confession, she told me how much she loved me, that she always had, and that she was willing to do anything to try to save the marriage. Many of you predicted this would happen, but it all felt so disingenuous to me, almost rehearsed. I've known this woman for more than half my life, and I can just tell when she's not being genuine. Maybe I'm wrong. Doesn't matter. I did better this time than last week, still got angry and said a few things I regret, including a jab about how her affair partner was seeing multiple women, and she was just one of many. That seemed to really upset her. A million thoughts had gone through my head about this moment, about what I might say to hurt her back, the one-liners I could throw. But in that moment, I only asked one thing I'd known I would. If her affair partner were still alive, and she had to choose between him and me, who would she choose? She hesitated, then mumbled, "That's not fair." Pressing the issue, she eventually said she would, of course, pick me. I pointed out that her hesitation was the very reason for the divorce. It suggested she was still lying. This made her break into tears, and she remained silent as we sat in the car, her sobbing continuously. I was exhausted. I told her that we were divorcing. I emphasized our responsibility to the girls, urging us to remain civil, to be great parents, to stay present in their lives. I added that after all the pain she'd put me through, I hoped she was still a good enough person to divorce fairly and amicably. That would at least prove she had once loved me. The last thing I said to her, I had borrowed from somewhere online. Please understand, I'm not a petty person, and I didn't want to cause her pain. It just felt like the right way to end it, and I meant it 100%. I leaned over, kissed her on the forehead, and told her, I would have loved you forever. Then I got out of the car and went to bed. That was it. Of course, I didn't sleep last night, and here I am unable to sleep again tonight. I don't know what happens next. Her opportunity to contest the divorce has come and gone, so I suppose that's one good thing. But I haven't yet spoken with my lawyer. I find myself crying again, sinking back into those waves of depression and anger. It was very hard hearing everything last night. In reality, I could have done without all of it. Having discovered the truth, I still recognize the possibility she could have fabricated parts of it, but it aligns seamlessly with everything I've pieced together over the past month. So for now, this saga continues. I experience a few good days, regain a sense of strength, and then another twist unfolds. It feels like both months and mere days have passed simultaneously. I'm going to try to sleep now. Imagine the love of your life, the only woman you've ever loved, ever kissed, tells you she was unfaithful for over 4 years. Not because she fell out of love, not because of problems at home, not because of distance, but simply because she was bored. I don't know if that makes it worse or better. Thanks for reading and helping me along the way. It's been a couple of very bad nights. I promise I'll try to respond tomorrow, after I finally get some rest. Note from OP in the comments. My wife passed away a month after the 6th update. Final update, after her passing. So many of you have reached out in the past weeks, strangers offering support to a stranger like me. I do appreciate it all and apologize for not responding sooner. I've been trying to stay off social media. There's been a bombardment of messages, well wishes, regrets, sadness, and even some harsh words from a select few. But now suddenly, it's just silence. The house is so quiet. The reality of the last few months has set in. I resonate with Andy Dufresne from The Shawshank Redemption. It feels like standing in the path of a tornado, just waiting for the storm to finally pass. Except in my life, the storm never really passes. There's no joy, no hope, just emptiness, leaving behind a crater where my soul once thrived. Despite the struggle, I've been making a concerted effort to maintain a strong facade for my girls ever since discovering my wife's affair. Through the tormenting weeks that followed, through cohabitation, through painful conversations, and then, just like that, she was gone. Now I find I can't put on the strong face anymore. Some mornings I can hardly get out of bed, but I do it anyway, for my daughters. I replay our last conversation in my head like a horror film, regretting every word, wishing I could go back and say something else, anything else. The last thing I said to her was that I loved her, that I always would, but that I wished I never had to see her again. I was hurting, vulnerable, exhausted by the same conversations, tired of the desperation and apologies. I was just tired. And now, life, like part of some cruel joke, has granted my wish. My daughters will be without their mother for the rest of their lives. They're coping as best they can. My oldest continues to take care of me, makes sure I eat, sits with me on weekends, even forces me to watch movies. I'm grateful for her. The younger two have returned to their routines with school and sports, and I'm relieved by that. I've found support in my mom and brother. Yet each day remains a struggle. Therapy has become routine for all of us, and while the girls seem to benefit, I struggle to embrace it fully. The weight of guilt and sadness won't lift. I attend sessions mostly because my oldest insists. As a Christian, I turn to the book of Job, trying to stay strong, trying to keep faith despite these trials. But more often than not, I fail. I just want to scream, "It's not fair," 1,000 times. I thought I was a good husband and father. I thought I'd done right by people. I thought I was a moral man. But suddenly I've been dealt this horrible hand, and I can't climb out of my pit of despair. I feel weak, pathetic, sorry for myself, and horribly empty inside. Life isn't fair. Life is hard. I get it. I'm just not sure I have the strength to weather this storm. What do all of you do when you're at your very lowest point?